Okay, for this presentation, this is a bit more advanced techniques in how we can take 3D Via or SOLIDWORKS Composer data and files and use them in different document publishing options. In this case, what I'd like to do is demonstrate how we can make a work instruction. This is going to involve a little bit of Visual Basic for application programming, a little VB programming as well, because we do have some control we want to have over the progression of the documentation, and you'll understand more in just a moment. First of all, I want to prepare this 3D Via Composer document first. It's going to be using the animation, so one thing I want to do is put some markers in the animation, and to do that, right up here in this bar just above the timeline is the marker bar, and we could just click there, enter the marker. In this case, I'll call this Start. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and position this along the timeline here, and let's stop right about there. I think I'll call that one Container Removed. I'll put one right there. Container Removed. Let's do it here. Okay, and then we'll carry on a little bit further in. Stop it right about there, and we'll put one, yeah, right there. We'll call that Suction Set Removed. It's kind of important, your text, and it's case sensitive, so you want to be a little bit careful about that. So let me go ahead and move a little bit further forward, and we'll move the spray tip, and I'll put one right there. Spray tip removed. Okay, so there we have our markers now. Go ahead and save this file. And the main point of that is when we're working with the automation, I'm going to put some buttons on this Word document. And this will allow me to program the buttons to move along each, shall we say, marker section, playing each section that needs to be performed. And you'll see again in just a moment how that's going to work for us. So with that now completed, let me open up and bring up a Word document. It's a blank document. One thing I would share with you is that I did turn on the Developer tab. To do that, you can go to the Customize the Ribbon interface, and you'll find the Developer tab right in here where you can enable that. It's disabled by default, so you might need to turn that on. Once that's turned on, I'm going to go ahead and switch into the mode here to do some tools, place some tools on our sheet. And our document sheet is blank. There's no formatting whatsoever at this point. What I think I would do is go ahead and click in the design mode, click on the tools, and we can insert an object. In this case, the object is going to need to be a 3D Via Composer player. This is going to insert an ActiveX frame for us. I'm going to change the formatting just a little bit, page layout. Let me just go ahead and change the margins. I'll make it tight, a little tighter, so I can make this a bit bigger. There we go. And really with this ActiveX control, you can go ahead and go to the properties. They also have this nice menu selection here where you can change the properties of it, and they got a nice dialog box for us. So we can turn on or off a few things. For this demonstration, one thing I want to do is go ahead and turn off the toolbars. So I'm going to turn everything off, essentially, the view panels and so on. I don't really want the user to be seeing all of that. They should just focus on what I want them to see. And of course, I want to go ahead and browse for the file. Now in this case, I've got this Power Painter file here that I was editing. I'll just go ahead and connect with that one, and I'll click OK. At this point, we've got that control finished up, and if I went back to the developer page and just click the design mode, what you'll see is the ActiveX control now displaying for you that document. Again, had we turned on all the toolbars and so on, they'd all be visible and usable to the person who's opened this document. But for the most part, they can still go ahead and pan and rotate and even zoom with the middle mouse wheel and so forth. So there's a little bit of functionality that they still have, of course. We can go back into design mode, and now let's get a little bit geeky. What I want to do next is go ahead and add controls. So let me go ahead and go down to next line here. I'm going to add one more carriage return for a couple of lines. At this line right below the ActiveX control, I'm going to go ahead and add some controls. First of all, the button. I'm going to put a button right there. command button 1, and I'm going to put one more in there, space, 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 put one more button in there. Alright, excellent. And let me go ahead and change some of the properties. For the most part, the properties on that first button, command button 1, I'm just going to change the caption. To begin with, I'll go ahead and just call that start. Let's just say begin. I think that'll work out better, make more sense. Have that say begin to begin with. And on command button 2, I'm going to use that for a replay button, if you will. I'll just call that replay. So let me just type in replay here, so they can replay that step that they're needing to perform. Alright, and down here what I'm going to do is add a couple of tables. I think what I'll do is insert, let's make it about 3 rows, 3 columns, I'm sorry. We'll just go ahead and stick with 1 row. Get that out of the way. And so what I want to do is insert some more controls. Let me go back to the developer tab, and I'll go ahead and insert a checkbox there, and I'll insert one more checkbox below it. Get a carriage return in there, and I'll add one more checkbox right there. And again, we can change some of the properties. So for the caption, just going to make sure the person checks this box saying that they have removed the container. And let's go ahead and say, for this caption, we'll say threads clean of debris. Making sure they clean the threads on the container of any paint that might have dried there. Again, it's up to you what you want to do here, how much you want to add and so forth, as many steps. And if I double click on the button, control button 1 here, I need to program it now. To program the first little bit, I'm going to check a few things out. As they click on that button for the very first time, we're going to go ahead and start playing that first sequence. So to do that, let me just copy and paste a few things here. We call on that ActiveX control for 3D Via, and we use the method to play marker sequence, and we tell it which one to play, start. So then we can see the next line I'm going to do is actually set up a variable called previous mark. I'm going to actually copy and paste a couple of variables in here, making them public up at the very top. And this is not really a programming video, but I just want to let you know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it here. So I'm going to add that variable previous mark, and I'm going to update that variable with the value of what mark we're playing, start. That's what we're going to use in our button 2 to replay it once again. So let me go ahead and add a couple of more things. When they click the button for the first time, clicking start, we want to change that to go to step 2, and then we want to enable button 2 so they can go ahead and replay. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and enable the checkboxes 1 and 2 so that they can actually check them. And that reminds me, one of the things I want to do is go ahead and go back to the document here and change, don't want to do that. Don't need that. Change the properties so that these are disabled by default. That will allow us to enable them here in the programming so that the user can check that completed. So it's kind of a way of us controlling to make sure they are performing these steps. Alright, let me go ahead and add a couple controls here. Add some more buttons. Change the properties. And for the time being, let's turn our attention back to the code for just a second. We want to take a look again at the code here, and what you can see is we've set up some of this code for our Power Painter in this document here already. Go ahead and just do a carriage return on that. What we want to look at is, now that we've got that first one completed, indicating that we've started it, I want to put some if statements, and that's how we're going to control whether or not the user has completed that. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and say at the beginning here, if the push button has a caption that says begin, complete this first step to start the sequencing, and then we'll end if there at the end. Next we'll put a similar one here for command button 1, where we've already said go to step 2 is what the caption will change to. So then when they finish step 1, they should be able to click step 2 to complete that. Go ahead and paste a little bit of code here. Similar in respect, what we're doing is making sure that the caption is step 2, and if it is, we're going to check the values for checkbox 1 and 2 to make sure that they checked both of them and completed both steps, all steps. And then we're going to go ahead and play to the next sequence. Here we're going to change the mark once again, as we did there, to that sequence we want them to replay. Command button 1 then would be changing to caption to go to step 3, and so on. So we do that a few times and end up with finished code that looks something like this. Just copy and paste all this in here. Okay, so once we have that finished code, that kind of goes along with all the buttons and the checkboxes and so on. We need to have a button 2 click event, and what I'm going to do is just copy and paste that in here for you. It's a very simple one, because what we're doing is updating that string variable at the top there to what mark we want to use as previous. So I'm going to just go down here at the bottom and put another subroutine in there. So the button 2 click subroutine will be telling the player to replay essentially the previous mark, which we've identified in the code. And I'm going to do a couple more things just very quickly. In the document open, I'm going to turn on a few things, suppress a few things, or shall we say disable a few things. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the section headers and so forth. I'm going to also have this prompt for that string name variable that I had here at the top. That's going to ask the user for their name, so I can go ahead and use that in the header and in the finished product, and even when we save the file and so on. So there's a lot of things going on in here. Again, this is not really a programming class as much as it is just to show you what's possible to use your 3D via content in a Word document. So let me go ahead and clean things up a little bit. And I've got a file right here that I've kind of set up, and I should point out that I saved this as a macro document, not a DOC, but a DOCM. And you can see what will happen when the user first opens it up. It asks them, prompts them for their name, and they would enter their name here. And what I do right at the very beginning is go ahead and update the header with that information. So you can see it loads the document and it loads the ActiveX component. Like I said before, some of these controls are going to be disabled to begin with, as well as that button, because there's nothing to play, replay or play again. So the very first thing they would do is click the begin, and it's going to show them the first sequence to remove the container. Once that sequence is complete, it asks them to complete the steps for step 1, remove the container. Those are now enabled. It's letting them go to step 2 next, so I can go ahead and check the boxes there. Clicking step 2, it shows them the sequence there and asks them to complete that. As you can see, it's disabling those and enabling these. Again, if the user needs to, they can click play again just to see how to accomplish the tasks, and then they would of course just check mark that they performed the tasks. And here we can click on step 3, watch that sequence. Again, please complete step 3. Note the button has changed to finish so that they can complete those steps. When they click finish, a few things that are happening at the end is that it will go ahead and update the document just a little bit, getting rid of the buttons, go to more of a complete start image, indicate here the work instruction completed by Jeremy on date such and such at time such and such, and you can see here just allows us to have a quick and simple, easy to print document. So I hope that gives you an idea of what can be accomplished with some of this content you can publish with 3dVIA, and how you can take that content and put it into Word documents, PowerPoints, even Excel files. A little more advanced maybe with some of the scripting that we did here, but I hope that gives you an idea of what you're capable of doing. Thank you for watching.